Hello everyone and welcome to the 8th Köhler Romantic Etude. This etude is titled Zig-Zag and it's quite exciting and very fast. It's written burlesco, which basically means that it should be played in a style as to cause someone to laugh. It should be played very dramatically and should be fun. And of course it's fast, so that helps too. I would say the most tricky thing in this etude is just the rhythm and how fast it is. It's written Allegro moderato, which basically means it should be fast, but don't push yourself to the point where you literally cannot play it anymore. So what you'll want to do is basically take out your metronome app, put it on 8th notes. I would start at 8th note equals 80. And once you have that down, throughout the whole piece, especially in that tricky chromatic run section, then you can speed it up from there. And if that's too fast to start with, there is no harm in even playing it slower than that. Once you speed it up enough, you should start to count it in 1. Around 120 to the 8th note is a good time to switch over to 60 to the quarter note. Once you speed that up a little bit, it can even get to 80. After you can play this at a tempo at which you're comfortable and is fast enough to be exciting, here comes the fun part. You should add your own little style onto this, but you need to make sure that everything stays in the right spot. Basically, emphasize some notes that you think are interesting. For example, what I did was I emphasized the first note of each grouping. This makes it a little more interesting instead of playing it very militaristic. If you play it like that in a performance, it doesn't really sound that interesting. Of course you're playing it up to tempo, and that's great. And you should practice like that at first. Don't try to practice with all of this fancy musicality when you're first starting out, because it will really just obstruct from the rhythmic integrity of the piece. That's why you really need to play that way when you're working it up with a metronome, but then after you're done with the metronome work, you can put in the fun. Another fun spot is the 4th line down. You can't do this evenly unless you've practiced it with a metronome beforehand. But since I have, I can add in these fun little grace notes and make it really interesting with vibrato. The measure after that, you really want to make sure you're slowing down. It's written diminuendo il tempo, meaning you need to slow down until you come back into the tempo on the 5th line down, where the forte is. I don't know why I said that. An extremely difficult section is the 3rd line down, where we have this rising chromatic section. This will really need to be practiced with the metronome. It is extremely difficult. There's really no avoiding it. It is important though, once you've worked it up to the right tempo, to add the dynamics in. It should start very soft, grow to loud in the 2nd measure, and then go soft again and grow again. The 5th line down, when we come back into the tempo, it's important not to chop off the 8th notes, same as in the beginning. In the beginning we go. So, the 5th line down we need to go. We don't want to chop them off like this, because that's not what we did before. We are playing different notes as before, but the rhythm didn't change. The rhythm's the same, so we have to play those notes long. Another important thing, especially in that measure, is to make sure that the low D is the same volume as the high D. Naturally, it would sound like this. We don't want it to sound like that though. That low D is very important, it needs to be loud and out there. Same with the high D. And in the next measure, the E flat needs to be as loud as the C before it. The last measure is probably the most funny part about this piece. I mean, we just have a chromatic scale going up to a high A and then it just ends. So that A is really important, but you don't want to hold it out long. I mean, it's just an eighth note. It's not written with a fermata. A fermata is actually on the rest afterwards, which tells you it should have some space. It should have some blank noise, because that's what makes it funny. That's fun, but it's actually... Of course, this is a great area to work on your musicality because, you know, musicality is also playing romantic French music. It's also playing Bach very controlled, but it's also playing something like this really quirky and really fun. Here's a perfect example of how not to play this etude. That's so boring. You get what I mean. It's so much more interesting. So adding this element of surprise, this element of burlesco, as it's written, this will really make this etude fun and exciting, and it should be fun and exciting. Etudes don't have to be so boring. We want this to be exciting, and it's important to exaggerate that. So this is a good change from the rest of the etudes you're probably like so done with doing, because you're just like, ugh, the next etude is octaves. The whole etude consists of octaves. It's really gonna be fun. So I hope this video helped, and if you would like to hear more from me, I'm teaching lessons on devynflute.com. You can book lessons with me there. And I'm recording all of these Köhler romantic etudes, so you can subscribe to my channel and hopefully see the next octave video soon. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed and learned something. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.